you're talking about doing all the things, Supermom,
Yeah.
right? It drives me
Yeah.
nuts because Supermom, I've told you
Yes.
this, is in the freaking dictionary. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, do you think super dad is in the dictionary? No, no, it is not. But Supermom is.
I love that you've looked in the dictionary as opposed to me. You're like, Jen, do you know where the dictionary is? Do you have the dictionary? Hi, I'm Jen.
Hey, I'm Suzanne, and today we're talking about getting lost in motherhood. And what I mean by that is losing your identity in motherhood. So I read a stat recently that 60% of moms feel like they lose their identity or have lost their identity in motherhood.
I actually thought that would be higher.
Right? But
Do you think they're
60%
just
that
not
actually
admitting
admit
to
it.
it? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, that's more fair. That actually admit it. Okay.
Yeah. And also, I wonder too, like, do people know when we talk about identity, it's like who you are, like the person, like the components that you're made up of, and like who you identify with. I mean, that's what your identity is. And so for me, that person coming into motherhood was a law firm owner, a wife, someone who loved to go have fun, whether it was going to a party or going skydiving or surfing or wakeboarding, like all like the athletic stuff. Like that was kind of golf, that kind of stuff. Like I just enjoyed all of that. And I would consider that part of my identity.
Yeah.
And as time went on with motherhood, and especially when they were super young, I have two boys, and then they were super young, you know, there's so much to do. You don't know. There's not, I know there's classes you can take, but other than like a class I took, originally to have my kids, like I had no idea what I was doing. I think just like the vast majority of us, right?
Absolutely.
And so I relied on what I know. And if you see me on our YouTube channel, you can see me saying what I know in quotes. But was to be like, okay, how do I get this organized? How do I manage all of this? And for me,
Yeah.
managing it was let me get all the schedules and let me get all of the things together and and take care of everyone. That's my way of taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think when they were younger, I felt overwhelmed at that stage. And I felt like if I could just get to the next stage,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to find myself again. Like I'll start feeling
Yes.
alive again. I'll start
Yes.
feeling,
Yeah.
doing those fun things again, right?
Yeah.
Well, then you get to the next stage, as most moms know, and nothing changes. It's just a ton of different things.
We include sports now. So now they go to sports.
Yes. And once
With
they
your
hit
free
the
time.
activities, it's like, good Lord, right? And then you're driving them everywhere and you're the carpool service.
And they have their
And
own friends and
yes.
their own things. And yeah.
Yeah, you got play dates, and then eventually those turn into hangouts, which turn into dances, which turn, it's like
And
all the things.
don't forget that at work you're getting like promoted, and you're like, if you're a mom that's a working mom, you're like having more and more responsibility because you're also getting older and crushing it. And so like you just keep piling it on.
It's true. And then you have your husband, and now you've kind of included him, if you're anything like us, in the taking care of like, oh, does he have all the stuff for his work trip? Does he, what family vacations are we planning? And oh, did he get to go on his fishing trip? And how do I make that work? But I also want to see my friends. But you know what? I'm going to go to Mommy Martyr and make sure everyone else gets taken care of before me. So pretty soon it's like, I just felt like I kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And that I didn't have like this big reveal of like, or, anything like just huge happen. It was just like silently like kept growing and growing and growing. And I remember oftentimes saying, is this it? Like, is this life? And I was so ashamed, right? I had so much shame in that of being like, gosh, what's wrong with me? And I'd look on Instagram and be like, these people sure seem to have it figured out, right? It's like total FOMO, right? Or I'd go to like a party, and then I'd be surrounded by other moms, and we'd all be talking about like, you either have the version of the moms that would talk about like how amazing and wonderful their life was, and just
everything's great.
My husband's amazing, my kids are amazing, and my life is
everyone's amazing.
with their pageant wave.
And you're like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
good
I I
talk.
know what's
Good talk.
happening. Uh-huh, uh-huh. And then
I
you'd
see
have
you.
that set of moms that would be like more on par with me and we just start complaining about everything, right? It was like
Yes.
that camaraderie of,
Yes.
I do all this for my kids and I do all this for my
Yeah.
husband and there's never any time for me. And don't get me wrong, I still feel that way on occasion.
Yeah.
It's not like it goes away, but
Yeah.
it was like it became like that was what was supposed to be what it was when you were a mom because of all these other people were experiencing it.
This must be what it's supposed to
This
be.
is the norm, right?
Yeah.
And if we look on all the like social media or like TV, like all the entertainment value is basically the mom holding the family up, right?
Mhm.
What's that statue
Mhm.
of the I don't even know why I'm asking you, but I'm hoping you might know. Where he holds the world on his head. Is it
I know which statue you're talking about with
good?
the actual world on
Yes, with
top.
the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like a
Oh, good,
globe.
good. Yes.
Okay, I know what
And to
you're
our
talking about, but
listeners who
yes.
are so much smarter than us, you can hopefully help us later. We'll figure that out.
Yes.
But, that's kind of what I feel like motherhood is portrayed as.
Yes.
And then every time I would be like, "Oh, well, maybe, what else could I do?" I'd be like, "Nothing. Like this is life. Like this is it." And then I just go on for a little bit longer and a little bit longer and I'd feel less and less of like myself. And it wasn't until I maybe went on a vacation where I would start to like just towards the end of the vacation really start to relax and be like, "Oh,
Mhm.
okay." And then it was like right back to life.
And you had double the work when you got home, let's not forget. Because you already had double the work to get there. Now you have double the work when you get home.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I found myself being super resentful of everyone. I
Yeah.
found myself feeling guilty for feeling resentful and frustrated because I'm like, Suzanne, you have a choice in the matter. But it's like my logical side would say that. And at the same time, I didn't have, like, I was so overwhelmed. I couldn't think of like a way to get out of it. The only way I could think about it was like these self help people that would be like, well, you just need to change your whole life. Like, you need to
Right.
do this whole thing, like a big overhaul of who you were. And I
Mhm.
remember just feeling really like broken.
Mhm.
And there were the occasional friends I talked to it about, and we'd all admit to it, but I don't feel like anyone really had a solution. Like it was
Yeah.
just like, again, kind of similar to the party. Like, this is just what life is.
Yeah. It's like a settling.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
An
sad, sad
acceptance.
settling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, this is it. And if you want more, you're selfish. And if and if you're not enjoying this, then you're not a good mom. And like if you don't do this, you're not this. Like I think that there's so many, like, unknowingly society has been like, no, mom, you're supposed to do it all. You're supposed to be crushing it at work, and you're supposed to be crushing it at home, and you're supposed to be crushing it wifing, and you're supposed to be crushing it as like the mom for the kids and the Pinterest and and oh, and by the way, I hope you're taking trips with your girlfriends. Girlfriend trips are so important. But it's like, I agree, by the way.
Yeah.
But when you're in that like complete deep spiral, and I will call it a depression because it is a depression, that you just feel so stuck because you're like, I don't have any more hours in the day. I don't have like the finances. I don't have, right? Like, because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I could go do this for me, but Johnny, not one of our kids' names, needs, baseball or whatever. Or, well, they have their, club trips coming up, or they have, right? And so, like, all of a sudden, it's like your vacations become sports
Mm-hmm.
weekends, and your nails and your pedicures and your stuff is like, well, I don't have an hour and a half to carve out of my day to go do that. And that's selfish of me because that's not really where we should be spending our money. I mean, these are things that like I thought of. And
Yeah.
I just want to make it clear to the listener, like, we're not talking about big things. We're talking about little things like, well, I want to go and meet my friends out for dinner, but it's a whole thing because I have to, do, as my husband used to call it, paint by numbers for my husband because it's just too much work to tell him all the things that have to happen in order for me to go out.
Yep.
And I don't want to deal with it. And I don't want to deal with him being bitter because he's also worked all day and I accept that he also is tired. Right. And so you just do this whole math, I guess, in your
Yeah.
head. I mean, every mom knows the mom math. And you're like, you know what? Like, I don't even want to go because it's actually going to be more work for me to go to dinner with my friend. And then you get so far away from the feeling of like, I know you and I have talked about it, like when you're with your friends, like it just fills when you're with the right friends,
Yeah.
it fills your cup.
Yeah.
And you leave feeling like, I'm so glad I did that, because the amount of time invested versus what you usually get out of like a good friendship or something, like far exceeds, like the amount of filling of your cup far exceeds like the work it takes,
Sure.
as a mom to like get everybody organized to go out and do that. But by the time, at least for me, you get to the point where that even doesn't need to happen, like where you don't
Mm.
need to tell your husband like all the things that need to happen because the kids are old enough. You've lost sight of that being something you actually need, and you've like almost given up on it. So it doesn't even cross your mind that like, oh, I should probably see if Suzanne wants to go to dinner on Thursday, or, yeah, we always joke about in 5 Sundays from now or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and that was one of the things I realized, like you stop doing it and it just gets further and further out of like your like wheelhouse. Like it's
Yeah.
not even something you're thinking about doing.
Well, I think too,
That
because
was a
our
huge thing.
brains, and I think the term you're talking about doing all the things, supermom,
Yeah.
right? It drives me
Yeah.
nuts because supermom, I've told you
Yes.
this, is in the freaking dictionary. Like
Yeah.
seriously, do you think super dad is in the dictionary? No, no, it is not.
Maybe. I don't know.
But supermom is.
I love that you've looked in the dictionary as opposed to me. You're like, Jen, do you know where the dictionary is? Do you have a dictionary?
You can find it online.
Spell check is my best friend. She steers me wrong sometimes, but she's usually my best friend.
Yeah,
So, anywho,
yeah.
we
Well,
digress.
but I think like just trying to be super mom all the time, you lose the connection that we've talked. Like we talk so much about connection and how
Yes.
important it is. But it's like once you've lost the connection, you've lost the. It's kind of like the treat at the end of like why you would do of a task, right? Like
Yeah.
if you like a kid, you're like, hey, you can get this candy if you pee on the potty, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
for us, it's like
Yeah.
if you actually go out and see your friend for dinner,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to feel good. You're going to feel like a
Yeah.
woman. You're not going to necessarily feel like mom. Like I feel like the
Yes.
term alive is something
Mm-hmm.
that got lost in translation, like got lost over time. Like I'm a woman
Mm-hmm.
separate and apart from everyone in my life.
Yes.
And I want to
Yes.
feel alive. And when I say alive, that's like finding me again, like that version
Yeah.
of me before I had kids. But also, that's an outdated version. Like
Sure.
who I was when I had my kids and starting 14 years ago is very different about who I am
Yeah.
now. And so
Absolutely.
again, so sometimes I worry about saying finding me again, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it just feels, important about, okay, but how do you go about that? And I remember thinking to myself, okay, how do I go about this? And so
Mm-hmm.
I just started like with really small things. I could have find just joy in every day. So if I'm not going on vacations and
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that all the time and I can't go to dinner
Yeah.
with my friends all the time and I
Yeah.
do have obligations to my family and I want to be a caregiver and a manager and I do want to do those things, but like how can I find things that I enjoy again? And so I
Mm-hmm.
started with just these like little short 5-minute things. And they were
Mm-hmm.
just really small shifts. And as those shifts started to take place, it was like, oh, like I would start smiling or I would laugh or like I turn up a song in the car during my kids' practice as I was waiting for the last 5 minutes for
Mm-hmm.
them. And it was some like oldie. And I still remember there's this Stevie Nicks song that my friend and
Mm-hmm.
I used to sing at a bar, like called Silver Springs or
Mm-hmm.
Fleetwood Mac, like back in
Yeah.
college. And one night I turned it on full blast in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I didn't even care. And I sang my heart out. And
Yeah.
I then sang it again because I took a video of myself singing it and sent it to my friend who I didn't talk to in a
Oh,
while.
I
And
love
so
that.
she calls me. We haven't talked in forever, but she gets that message. She calls me back and we end up talking for like 30 minutes. And she's in an airport getting ready to go to a sporting event for her kids. So it just
Yeah.
happened to work out. And I had so much love in my heart for just a moment like that. It wasn't anything big. It didn't cost any
Yeah.
money. I was doing it
No.
where I already was. Like,
Yeah.
and it gave me like those small shifts really started to change the way that I felt. And we talked about intentionality in other episodes. And like, so now I started to intentionally look for places where I could find joy in my everyday life and start to feel alive in my everyday life.
Mhm.
And then that led to being like, oh, I have that feeling again. And now I'm going to go chase that feeling. I want to go chase
Mhm.
that reward again. And I started talking to you and a couple of my other friends. And then you guys started to do it as well. And we all started to realize, like, oh, like,
Mhm.
here's another, like, oh, I want more of this. I'm going to go seek it.
Yeah. Yes.
And in that experience and over the course of time, it's just grown and grown and grown to the point where I was like, even in a really difficult season I've had over the last couple months with health problems and family issues and all sorts of
Mhm.
stuff, it's like
Yeah.
I can still find joy and feel myself, even in moments where I'm like, I just want to pull
Yeah.
my hair out and or just be so sad. It's like I'm still
But I
feeling
feel
all
like
of
it's
those
like you
things.
have yeah, I feel like you have that little like spark fire in you. Like I know for me that like people just see that you're because your happiness when you're in martyr mom mode or like you're just kind of like stuck in the middle of it, your happiness is coming from like achieving, your kids being happy. Like it's not really coming from your own happiness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like your
At least for
internal. Hmm.
yes. And so I think when you're doing things for you, you naturally show up differently also to everyone else around you because you're coming from your own cup of happiness.
Yep.
And then as a mom, you're like, yay, more happiness. And then as a wife, you're like, yay, more happiness. But then if there's not a lot of happiness, like there's stuff going down, like you just said, it's like, oh yeah, but I still have my happy. Like I'm still singing my songs. I'm still seeing my friends. I'm still like, I've still got these like little snippets
Hmm. To look
of
forward to.
joy.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. And they've already filled me. So like my cup isn't already on empty. And then, ish is hitting the fan and I'm dead inside basically. Like I know
Yeah.
that sounds horrible, but I do feel like a lot of women and what I would say because I was listening to you and I didn't interrupt is that there's just so much shame and sadness and depression and nobody wants to talk about it even with their friends really about like how they're really feeling because you look around and you're like, I have a loving husband. It might not be perfect, but like he really loves me. And I have these great kids, and everybody, for the most part, has their health. And we live in a nice house, and we live in a nice neighborhood, and we go to nice schools, and we can afford to eat. And like you look around and you're like, how can I be so ungrateful? But that's not really what it's about. Those are all the things you have, but that's not about you. And I think because our identity gets lost, you make all those things your identity. So your identity is I'm a mom. Your identity is like we live in a nice neighborhood. Like we're like middle class or whatever your thing is,
Yeah.
right? Like things you wanted to accomplish then become your identity and then you're like, well, I can't be sad and I can't be ungrateful and I can't be like I'm so lucky. I can't feel like this. Like, no, everybody's going to be like, oh, wow, first world problems,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
that's like, what are you even talking about? Like, how life, I see your life. Like, what are you talking about? How could you feel this way? And it's like, you don't even want to explain that to people. So you
Yeah.
just shut up, you stay silent, and you isolate all of those feelings.
Yeah.
And then they just turn into shame and depression and ugliness and you just keep it all inside and then it's like you get stuck there. I know that sounds really depressing, but there's so
Yeah.
many women and even though you talk about it with your friends, it's like you're talking about like things, right? Like a certain situation or
Hmm.
whatever. It's not like you're not saying like I feel dead inside, right?
Why?
Like you're not saying that
No. No.
because you're too shamed.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is a perfect example. I mean, or explanation. Like when I say I felt broken,
Yeah.
you feel
Broken.
broken.
Yeah.
Like something's not like, how can I have all of this and yet complain? Like that doesn't feel like that doesn't feel okay to me. And I want to be
Right.
grateful, but I don't feel
Yes.
grateful. And so I think it's
Yes.
that feeling inside of you, that light inside of you. And I will say I would show up places and people will be like, did you do something different with your like hair or like, and I started to
Yeah.
realize like, oh no, like I just feel good about myself. And sometimes I'd explain it to
Yes.
people and they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, what little things could I do? Like, oh, what are you
Yes.
doing? And like, we talk about it, and
Yes.
like, there'd be such a switch in the momentum of the conversation and just
Yes.
like general excitement. And of course, you'd have the people that just stare at you and be like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
My life's perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But I think what I realized was I wasn't broken. I think I was buried.
Yeah.
And so and it was like those feelings were buried. And as it's like if
Yeah.
it's in a hole and you're taking dirt out, and every time I'd find joy, it'd be like taking dirt out and like
Yeah.
finding myself again and like
Yeah.
reaching a hand in and like lifting yourself out of that. And so what I ended up doing, as you know, is, but our friends
Yeah.
listening, is I ended up creating a course, and it's called Finding Me Again. And I
Yes.
term these types of things, I call them sparked actions. So my
Yes.
company, one of the programs we have is called Sparked Mom. And it's just like finding your spark again, like finding those feelings of that light inside of you again. This portion or this course, it's like just a little mini course. And it gives you
Yeah.
those tools that you can use that can cause those small shifts and that works for you. Like it's like a toolbox of them. It's not, you need to do this for 15 minutes a day, or you need to go on vacation, or you need to spend all this money.
Yeah.
No.
It's
These
and it's
ones
not
are
an overhaul. It's not
no.
an overhaul. Suzanne and I are very against overhauls.
We've done too many in our lives.
I was going to say, speaking from experience, not because from true experience of saying we're like, that's it, we're changing everything. I'm not doing this anymore. And I can't even count them all. So when I say that we are like so hyper focused, and the whole reason that we started this podcast, as you can tell, they're 15 minutes, people, because we know you don't have a lot of time and you don't have the brain capacity to do anything else. So
Yeah.
hear us and hear Suzanne when she says small, attainable goals, ideas, like find your light. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to say this is not an overhaul. Like, yes, if you want to get more in depth, that's why we have coaching. But for this, it's
Yeah.
like, why not?
Yeah. Like, what do you have to lose? Like, you just get a little, and the idea is you get little small sparks, and then eventually you have a spark that keeps lit and it starts a fire and it trembles through everything around you and brings everyone around you, including your kids and your husband and your friends and your family, to life with you. But that's way too big at this point. What I'm talking about in the Finding Me Again course, and I'll put it in the show notes, the link, is
Yeah.
just the small things you can do in the life that exists right now that doesn't cost money, that can just be things that you can do, and to feel
Yes.
so much better and to find your spark again. So,
Yes, I love it.
and I think those are really my wrap ups for today. I mean, my takeaways were already a little longer than we normally are in an episode, and I appreciate you guys for hanging on this long. And I think that's it for today. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We hope you discovered something in Suzanne's story.
And we'll see you next time. Same place, same sisterhood.
Bye.
Bye.